Good evening and welcome. Tonight I'm going to be reading to you from this book, The History of the World, Map by Map. And if you are new to this series, welcome. You're a little late, but that's okay. I'll link the full playlist right up there so you can go back and watch some history, because we're almost caught up to modern day in this series. And if you didn't know, in this series I go in totally blind. I've only read the titles of each map so that I can put them into little categories for you. So we're going to read these maps together. And as you can tell by the title, tonight's category is Middle East conflicts. Now, before you comment, why aren't you talking about this? Why aren't you talking about that? Number one, these maps, I'm pretty sure just cover the 20th century and a bit into the 21st. This book is from 2018, okay, so it's not going to cover anything that happened after 2018. But it looks like we're going to start in probably the 1960s and head into the 2010s. So it's not going to cover every conflict because things have definitely happened since then, but we're just going to see what these maps say. And again, I have no idea what these maps say. So let's find out. Maybe we'll go back into the 40s, or I don't know, because we're going to start off with Israel and the Middle East. So let's see where this timeline starts. 1948. That makes a lot of sense. Starting off with Israel, 1948 to 1949. Oh, also, speaking of, in my comments, I don't allow hatred toward any country. I don't allow hatred toward any people. So if you want to leave this country's horrible, that country's horrible, these people are horrible, I just delete them. So don't even bother. I won't let them stay on my channel for very long. What you can post is uplifting things toward other people that aren't hateful or spiteful in any way. I always like that. So yeah. And to be a little bit more specific before I get into the videos, not in this case is different, but normally if I do a video on Israel, or if I do a video on Palestine, I don't really like when people post pro other or opposite persons. That's like the only time, but in this case, because we're talking about everything, I guess that's fine. Otherwise, it wouldn't be. It's not about one specific country or region. It's about the whole area. So if that makes sense, I'm going to stop rambling and digging myself into a hole. Let's get into it. Israel. This is all unscripted. Let's find out what happens. This says the state of Israel was founded on May 14th, 1948. In response, 5 Arab neighbors, Transjordan, Syria, Lebanon, Egypt, and Iraq, invaded. Israel fought back, forcing out the Arab forces. It also enlarged its territory by 1/4, seizing 50% of the area allocated to an Arab state. A series of ceasefires in January to March of the following year ended the First Arab-Israeli War. So all of the blue was Israel in 1949. Which pretty much just looks like Israel today, to be honest. All of the blue here. Then we move on to Palestinian immigration, 1947 to 1949. The birth of Israel ended the Palestinians' dream of their own state. During the 1948 Palestine War, up to 600 Palestinian villages were sacked by Israeli forces. As a result, more than 700,000 Palestinians, 80% of the total Palestinian population of Israel. This loud car outside agrees that, my goodness, that's such a high number, right? Loud car outside. Why don't you pass on by? There you go. Here comes. It's a big truck. I could have my window open. I can see it. Looks like a ranger's truck of some kind. Okay, goodbye, loud truck. Have a nice day. Thanks for passing by. 80% of the total Palestinian population in Israel fled their homes and went into exile in neighboring countries. The exodus is known as al-Nakba, or the catastrophe. And migration is shown by these magenta arrows, these purpley arrows, and refugee camps are shown by these tents. So we can see even numbers with them: 7,000 heading into Egypt, 190,000 into the Gaza Strip where there's a camp, 280,000 into Jordan, there's a camp there, and there, 75,000 up into Damascus there's camps, and 100,000 up to Lebanon, camps up there as well. Oh, and then 280,000 into the West Bank from the north up here. Then we have the 6-Day War. This was June 5th to 10th, 1967. Isn't that 5 days? Is 6-day catchier? What's up with that? Threatened by increasing pressure from its Arab neighbors, including an Egyptian naval blockade in the south, Israel responded in June 1967 with a surprise attack. It destroyed the entire Arab air force on the ground and Egypt's tanks in the Sinai. Israeli troops captured the Sinai Peninsula, as well as the West Bank and the Golan Heights. So Israeli forces are shown by yellow arrows. Occupied after 1967 is in green, and occupied after 1967 but reoccupied by Egypt after 1973 is in teal. So we can see, let's look at the arrows first. Heading up there, in here, pew, 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 all across the Sinai, which as you can see is all green. But there's the teal there, along the canal. And then the Golan Heights up here. I wonder what's dark green. Oh, that's the next box. Up there, the Golan Heights area. Let's read about the Yom Kippur War, which was October 6th to 24th, 1973. In retaliation for their defeat in the 6-Day War, Egyptian and Syrian forces launched a surprise attack on Israel on the Jewish holiday of Yom Kippur. Egypt made early gains, crossing the Suez Canal, while Syrian forces advanced over the Golan Heights. Israel counterattacked by crossing the Suez Canal and reaching within 65 miles, or 104 kilometers, of Cairo. A ceasefire was arranged by the UN, with forces pulling back the next year. What would have happened if they had reached Cairo, I wonder? Like, how far would it have gone? I don't know. Anyway, Israeli forces are dark blue, looks like that. Egyptian and Syrians are this pinky color. And then occupied by Israel after 1973 is dark green. And the demilitarized zone from the UN is in these green stripes, and that was until 1979. We can see that all throughout the, I almost said the Suez, the Sinai right here. Let's start with the arrows. Israeli forces is this arrow there, and that arrow up there. Egyptian and Syrian forces are going, I guess it looks more orange on here. It looks pink right there. It's orange on the map. There, and there, across the canal. Not across the canal. Across the, I guess the waters. I guess this is the canal right here. Yeah, so across, they said in the box across the canal. Across the canal, and then up here through Port Said as well. And up into, or from Damascus into the Golan Heights. And then occupied by Israel after is up here and over here past the Suez. And then okay, then we have moves toward peace, 1979 to present. In 1979, Israel signed a peace treaty with Egypt and handed back the Sinai Peninsula. The 1993 Oslo I Accord created a Palestinian government, the Palestinian Authority, which was given some jurisdiction in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. Israel withdrew from Gaza but has been reluctant to relinquish Jerusalem and the West Bank, which is all this orange up here. Talked about that in my Bethlehem video, which Bethlehem isn't on here, but it's like right here. And then, the Sinai is back for Egypt. So that borders, pretty sure the border today. West Bank, Gaza Strip. Gaza Strip's in yellow, and the West Bank is in orange. It's a pretty color orange. Whoa, very heavy topic, right? There's a lot going on. There's almost like too much going on to even, like, where do I even start? So we're not even going to start. Look at this up here. This was the ideas for how it would be. Borders of the British Mandate. And then the proposed Arab state of 47 is all throughout here. And the Jewish state would have been here. And international zone right there. But that was clearly shot down because neither side wanted that. It's a lot, isn't it? Let's talk about our next horrifying war. We're going to skip some maps because we're going to read those next time. We're going to stick with the theme and talk about Iran and the Gulf Wars. Starting with the Iranian Revolution of 1979. Resistance against the autocratic rule of the Shah of Iran led to demonstrations in the holy city of Qom in 1977 and 1978. Riots soon spread to the capital, Tehran, with demonstrators calling for the return of the exiled Shia religious leader Ayatollah Khomeini. The Shah eventually fled Iran in January 1979. Khomeini set up a religious government, one of only 2 theocracies in the world, alongside the Vatican City. So the revolution is shown by this green fist here, which we can see Tehran up here. The Iranian Revolution. And then after the revolution, 1979 to present, the new government of Iran, led by Ayatollah Khomeini, became the world's first Shia government. It adopted strong anti-American and anti-Israeli policies and supported radical Shia groups, such as Hezbollah in Lebanon, and more recently, pro-government forces fighting in the Syrian civil war, which thankfully could be nearing its end right now. It's either going to spiral or end soon, hopefully. But there's no little keys for that. Just talking about Iran after the revolution. It's been an interesting... How do I even say this? It's like, where do we even start? Should I even start? It's been like a very I gotta say things carefully. I can't just go off the cuff. It's an extreme government by definition, right? But there have been extreme politicians that almost go too extreme, and people are like, whoa, that's a bit extreme, and they pull it back to someone who's not as extreme. But then the people are like, you're not as extreme, and then they vote in the more extreme, and then they're like, whoa. It just feels like Iran's government's going back and forth between that. To whose benefit, who knows? But no hate toward Iran. I actually think Iran is like an underrated, gorgeous country. It is so beautiful up in the north here. It's stunning. All the history down here, which we talked about months ago, stunning. But we're going to talk about the Iran-Iraq War, which lasted from 1980 to 1988. In September 1980, Iraq's leader Saddam Hussein attacked Iran to secure the Shatt al-Arab waterway, and the oil-rich province of Khuzestan at the head of the Gulf. Iraq was supported by the US and USSR, as well as most Arab nations, while Iran fought alone. A UN-brokered ceasefire ended the war in August 1988. So the Iraq invasion in 1980, shown by this magenta E arrow, and the Iranian invasion in 1984 is a dotted arrow, and airstrikes are shown by these explosions. So yeah, my goodness, what a back and forth this was. Basically, no one won, and everyone lost, to be honest. That's Iraq invading, there's Iran invading, and all the airstrikes here, do you see? Even all the way up here, and all the way over here in Shiraz as well. And then in Iraq as well. And that was a big mess and led to the Gulf War, 1990 to 1991. Look at this key, holy moly. In an effort to recoup financial losses incurred by the war against Iran, Saddam Hussein invaded oil-rich Kuwait on August 2nd, 1990, claiming it as a rightful part of Iraq. Arguments over financial repayments to Kuwait by Iraq and illegal Kuwaiti oil drilling added to the tension. The Iraqi invasion quickly succeeded, but in January 1991, a coalition of 29 countries, led by the US, attacked the Iraqis and expelled them from Kuwait in February during Operation Desert Storm. So, Iraqi invasion of Kuwait in 1990 is these purple arrows. We can see them invading Kuwait. There it is. There's an airplane overhead. Let's wait until it passes by. Okay, I think it's flying away. Iraqi air bases are dark purple airplanes. You can see there in southern Kuwait and up here. Oh my gosh, wait, there's like a million of them. Hold on. Wait, why are there like hundreds? Do you see all these? That's a lot of air bases. Holy moly. It never ends. Well, that's Saddam for you, I guess. It's a lot. But then the Allied air bases are the light purple airplanes. You can see them here in Saudi Arabia. All the way down here in Bahrain. And the UAE. And anywhere else? There. Surely there's more. Yep, up here in Turkey. And that was it. Looks like I don't see any more. There could be. Oh, Cyprus had one. There could be more, but I don't see any more. Probably. What else is there? Secured installation. I'm not sure what this symbol is. It is. Oh, it's a missile pointing up. Did I say secure? It says Scud installation, which makes far more sense. It's a Scud missile. I don't know what Scud stands for, but you can see them over here. They're dark purple, so they must be Iraqi, right? I assume that they were like long-range missiles of some kind. I don't know. And, oh, Iraqi Scud missile attacks are shown by these upright missiles. Let's see where that happened. Over here in Israel. That's it. There's another installation there. Was it just Israel? Oh no, here we go. Down here in Saudi Arabia and Qatar. And I think that's it now. Looks like it. What's next? Alleged Iraqi nuclear / chemical / biological weapons plant is shown by a gas mask, which we can see them throughout Iraq here. We know chemical weapons were used. So I guess that makes sense that there's alleged chemical weapons plants there. But nuclear? I'm not sure about that. U.S. battleships are dark purple. We can see them in the reds. Oh no, those are aircraft carriers. Battleships are the little battleships there. We can see them in the Persian Gulf. It's the Gulf War. Makes sense. Aircraft carriers, you can see them there and in the red. No, that's not an aircraft carrier. Oh my gosh. I'd help if I actually looked. Aircraft carriers in the Red Sea, and you can't see the the Red Sea here and the Mediterranean. All right, amphibious attacks are these little amphibious boats. That makes sense. Oh, they hit Riyadh too. There's another one. You can see. Okay. Amphibious attacks there. I guess it's in the Gulf, which makes sense because it's the Gulf War. Allied airborne attack is a dotted purple arrow. So from this ship pew, to these missiles. From this ship pew, to these missiles. From this base to Mosul. From this base to Baghdad. And Saudi Arabia into the water. And then up into Kuwait. Okay, what's happening here? Did you miss? I don't know. I don't understand. All right, Allied gained combat. Allied ground combat is dark orange, which is all throughout most of Kuwait and southern Iraq. A bit into Saudi Arabia, but there's like nothing here, so it's just desert. And it pointed out the Kurdish region. There's Kurdistan up here, all yellow. I suppose very important to mention. I'm sure. Oh, snap! We forgot to do the boxes. I knew I was forgetting something. I hope you're all not like kicking yourself like you didn't do the boxes on the other page. Okay, how about this? Let's finish this and we'll go back and we'll read all the boxes. How many videos have I done of this? And I forgot how I was supposed to do them. We did not read all the little boxes. Let's finish this page. Holy moly. I would just start over, but then it wouldn't be raw reaction, right? Iraq War 2003 to 2011. After the Gulf War continued, international pressure was put on Iraq. The U.S. believed that Iraq possessed weapons of mass destruction, despite assurances from UN arms inspectors to the contrary. Together with the UK and others, U.S. forces attacked Iraq in March 2003. Saddam Hussein was overthrown and eventually executed by the Iraqi government in 2006. Iraq soon collapsed into sectarian civil war. So Allied air exclusion zone is shown by these green stripes here. It's from 91 to 2003, all throughout southern Iraq here. Allied land campaign in 2003 are the green arrows, so they're coming up from the Gulf, looks like. Up into Basra, heading up north here, up into Baghdad, and oh, there's more green stripes up here in the north, near Mosul. Main centers of Iraq resistance are shown by these green explosions, so you can see Baghdad here, of course, and right here. Okay, I think that's it. Alright, what a crazy map, but it was a very hectic time, wasn't it? Let's go back to the Levant and read all the... We didn't read all the little boxes. Oh my gosh. Let's do that. So we have 1973. Israelis retake Golan Heights and reach within 35 miles of Damascus, or 56 kilometers. Yeah, what would they have done to Damascus? Well, I imagine they would have, like, invaded, but that would be something, wouldn't it? If they, like, took over Cairo or Damascus. I'm sure that's why Egypt brokered a peace deal so that nothing like that would happen to Egypt. 1948, Tel Aviv becomes the de facto Israeli capital, although many official buildings are in Jerusalem. In 2000, Israel begins construction of a border wall on the West Bank to protect itself from Palestinian attacks. From 1979 to 1982, the Sinai Peninsula was returned to Egyptian control. And then it looks like we're pointing here to this arrow in 1973. Israelis counterattack across the Suez Canal and advance 65 miles, or 104 kilometers, toward Egyptian capital of Cairo. And again, 1973, the Egyptian forces cross the Suez Canal and retake ground lost in 1967. 1948, we're pointing at the Gaza Strip here. Gaza Strip falls under Egyptian control after the 1948 war. And in 2005, Israel withdraws unilaterally from the Gaza Strip. Looking at Jerusalem in 1948, Jerusalem was divided between Israel and Jordan. There's Jericho, 1994. Israel begins partial withdrawal from the West Bank by handing Jericho over to the Palestinian Authority. In 1948, Transjordan, which was renamed Jordan in 1949, takes control of the West Bank after the 1948 war, annexing the territory in 1950. In my defense, there were not a lot of little boxes, but boxes there sure were, weren't there? I can't believe I forgot to read the little boxes. Did I see this arrow? 4,000 into Iraq. I don't think I saw this arrow. It's a good thing I went back. I missed a whole arrow during the Nakba. My goodness. Now let's go back to Iraq and Iran and read all those little boxes. Let's start over here. What do we have? April 1991 to March 2003. No-fly zone established by Allied coalition in northern Iraq to protect the Kurds, which was a minority in Iraq, Iran, and Turkey, who were fleeing from persecution from Iraqi air attack. Yes, that's why Kurdistan's pointed out. They're very much caught in the middle during all this. January 1991, Allied airstrikes against Iraq launched from ships in the Red Sea and Mediterranean. 2003, Sunni Iraqis launch resistance against Allied occupying troops. It's right there. March 2003, Allied land force. I see. I thought it was land forces, but it's the Allied land forces attack Iraq from Kuwait. In August 1990, Iraq invades and occupies Kuwait. Let's head up here. October 1984, Iran seizes Iraqi territory in the north in a successful counteroffensive. 1983 to 1988, Iraq uses chemical weapons against Iranian and Kurdish targets, harming more than 100,000 people. February 1979, exiled religious leader Ayatollah Khomeini returns from Paris. January 1991, Iraqi Scud missiles fired at targets in Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and Qatar. From here, I didn't see these. September 1980, initial Iraqi attacks gain territory in the head of the Gulf during the Iraq-Iran War. There's another one over here. It says April 1980, a U.S. helicopter used to rescue 63 hostages held in the U.S. Embassy in Tehran crashes in Tabbas. That's awful. Oh, that's so terrible. What a sad thing to happen. But yeah, mess, I know. It's still kind of a mess today, but at least today is better than it was 5 years ago. Far better than it was 10 years ago, but still not perfect. I always tell you guys the story how I vaguely remember the Gulf War. I was 5, and it's like, what's the first major world event that you remember? Mine is the Gulf War, because I was a strange child and I liked to watch the news. I don't know, because I didn't understand it, but I guess I felt grown up watching the news. So they would always do sports and then news about the war, like in that order. So I thought they were saying Gulf War, like GOLF. And I just thought it was some kind of very extreme golf tournament that I couldn't comprehend. And I didn't understand if it was an actual war or a golf tournament of some kind. I was very confused about it, but I just remember thinking it was the Gulf War for a couple years until I learned actual history. And it was the Gulf, like the Persian Gulf. Makes sense now. And of course I remember the Iraq War because I was a teenager. Gosh, I was 16, 17. I remember being in, I'm trying to think, I remember the classroom, but I had a bunch of classes with that teacher in that classroom. So I think it was, we were in our speech and debate club, because we had that in that classroom, and our teacher ran in with the TV, wheeling the TV in, being like, we did it, we captured Baghdad. And so we watched the live news of them pulling down the Saddam statue, which is like this iconic moment because the statue is like, here's the statue, right? So they start pulling it and it goes like, and they can't get it past that, but they were like, yeah, we did it. They got it that far. It like snapped, like his ankle snapped, and that's as far as it went. They couldn't get it down any further, but then they still celebrated. Good enough, we did it. So we were all like, cool. We have a lot of work to do, though. We were working for a competition of some kind. But yeah. Also, this is strange. This is a strange fact about me. Our family, our parents would not allow us to have a video game system that hooked up to the TV because we only had one TV, and our parents didn't want us fighting over whether they could watch TV or we could play video games. So we had a Game Boy and a Game Gear, which was Sega's handheld, which we played on nonstop. But our parents were adamant that these were family things and no one person in the family owned them, that we all shared them, so everyone got to pick out games. So my dad picked out a Desert Storm game for the Game Gear. I think it was called Desert Storm. And you were a little helicopter and you'd shoot missiles at things. So I wasn't very good at it. I don't think I even got past the first level. I kept trying and I'm like, I don't like this game. It's really weird. But he loved it because he got to pretend that he was fighting in Desert Storm, I guess. But isn't that a very American? We had a whole handheld video game where you could reenact Desert Storm and take back Kuwait. You were basically like one of these, I guess. But I remember being a helicopter. But yeah, that was the game he picked out. We picked out Sonic the Hedgehog games and like Aladdin and The Lion King. I liked those games more. But anyway, that's enough little tidbits from me. We are almost done with this book, you guys. It's absolutely crazy. We only have 2 episodes left. So I'll show you what we'll talk about in the second to last one, these maps that I skipped over. We're going to talk about the fall of the Soviet Union, which I also vaguely remember, and the fallout in Yugoslavia, which, holy cow, like how chaotic this map is. It was a chaotic time, I imagine, so we'll look at those later. So be sure to subscribe so you won't miss it. I do hope that you found this video relaxing and educational, even though it was about one of the least relaxing topics in the world, and I did a bad job. I didn't do a bad job. I could have done better. I can't believe I forgot the little boxes. What was I thinking? I really hope that you weren't like yelling at the screen. You forgot. Because I know I would be. Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. But nevertheless, I hope that you found this video relaxing and educational, and I hope that you have a good